So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation and that we have the possibility to talk about a little bit about our project. So we have 20 minutes and we'll show you 2.5 years of work, because MED1st is a 3 years project, and you can imagine there's a lot of topics, but I think the most important thing for today is that we really have the end user view, and that's thank you very much to Daniela, because I'm just here for a little bit to show, just introduce the project, and I think the most important thing is the end users and the end users view, what is really MED1st and what works. When we're talking about MED1st, just to give you a little bit of feeling, it's a funded European Horizon project, Horizon 2020. We have approximately 7.5 million euros for 3 years to develop a system, and you see it here in red. There are 3 keywords which are very important for us: skills, resilience, and performance. Because we would like to train, or MED1st is there, to train first responders and think on the situation. You're coming as a medical first responder to an accident. You have, for example, there are 25 persons who are injured, and where we are focusing is on this situation and on the topic of triage training. You have 45 seconds per each person, and you have to decide what to do. So it's not only medical skills, it's much more about decision making and acting, how you perform, which decisions do you do, and that's the reason why we focused on the mixed reality approach, because we think mixed reality will really help. When I talk about us, and we also had before the name Heidelberg, for example, we are 19 partners in this consortium, and I think this is so important to mention because we have there a lot of different end user partners. And this is also something we learned because the cases, the scenarios are completely different. Also imagine one of the partners, for example, is from Greek. There you have forest fires, complete different sorts of accident. On the other hand, you have Sweden, completely different if you do your exercises and your actions with minus 35 degrees. And this was the reason why we are coming complete across Europe. Or lastly, to mention also the city of Madrid. In a city you have completely different conditions or situations. So Sebastian mentioned it last week, we had field trials in Sweden. There, for example, you have the problem that maybe the next medical first responder or the ambulance is 150 kilometers away, because in the woods there you have not every 50 kilometers a city or something like that. And this is everything what we try to summarize a little bit. In the MED1st project there are 3 important things. On the one hand, you have not only the technology, you have much more the trainings framework. There's different scenarios, what to train when, and what is important. Accidents could be different, involved persons could be different. On the other hand, for us it was important that you have a smart system in the meaning of not scripted. It should be fully fluent. It's a sort of AI-driven. I will show then a video that you get a little bit to imagine, and that the trainers can control the situation. Also based on the experience of the different participants, because it's completely different if you have a medical first responder with 20 years of experience, or maybe a person who is 3 months within the organization. But this means different training, but also in reality this could happen. It could happen that you come to a mass casualty in the first week of your job. The third thing, and this is, I think, the most important or interesting thing for you, is the mixed reality approach. If we are talking about mixed reality, we try to combine within our project, on the one hand, the virtual world, where you see everything what is around you. You see the context, because the context is very interesting for us, because the context is shaping also your behavior and your training. Also think of an accident when, for example, the car is still burning. Then it could be dangerous for you. So this is the virtual part, but where's the mixed part? The mixed part there is for you. You see it here on the picture, that we integrate a really high-level simulation mannequin, which can really completely be influenced of the things what you are doing. Also this is like a robot system. So it's really, if you support them with breath, if you really make the pressure on the chest, it really reacts one-to-one of what you are doing. And this was for us so interesting, because you have the virtual layer of the round, and you have this tangible device, you have this tangible mannequin, so it feels much more realistic, and you have a complete connection over an API between the mannequin, what you're doing, how he behaves, and the surroundings and what is influencing you. This is so a little bit in a nutshell the idea, and what I would like to do is to start with a video that you really get an introduction of our MED1st project.
So after this first insight into the MED1st system, I'd like to give you an overview of the involvement of end users in the project. The role of the end users was important as we are able to bring in our knowledge and our background. In total, there are 6 end user organizations in the project team. All of them are medical first responder organizations. UNITA is one of them, especially the UNITA Research and Innovation Center, which I'm a member of. The role of the end users in year 1 was mainly to cover and to share the knowledge. Thank you. To share our knowledge, our experience, and our needs with the research and technology partners. In year 1, there were requirement workshops to uncover wants and needs. Furthermore, researchers and technology partners joined us to observe our trainings, to see how the state of the art of our trainings at the moment is. Year 2 was focused on the development of the technology of the system itself, and end users were involved in tryouts. We had feedback loops with the technology partners and discussions about feasible and suitable solutions that meet our requirements. The second half of year 2 was dedicated to the preparation of the so-called field trials. I'll talk about them later. And year 3 is where we are now, and it is focused on the execution of the field trials where trainers and trainees from the medical first responder organizations are able to test the system. An early inclusion of end users and their perspective is very important at any stage of such a project. As part of an end user organization myself, I think our mixed reality solution could profit a lot from the steady exchange between medical first responders and the technology partners. Over time, we could develop a mutual understanding, and that wasn't that easy, for each other's perspectives, for what we want, what we need, and what our requirements are. And I think the outcome did profit a lot from this exchange. The starting point was to uncover the current training situation for medical first responders in Europe and to find the shortcomings. MED1stMR focused on the training of so-called mass-casualty incidents, MCIs in short. In those situations, there's a mismatch between the number of medical first responders on scene and the number of casualties, which is, for example, the case in large accidents, bus accidents, train accidents, and so on. We, as medical first responders, need to be prepared to give our resources to those who need it most. And basically, we need to do what is called triage, which means we need to ensure the best treatment for each patient under the given circumstances. Today, we can train triage in simulations in classrooms or on paper, which is quite insufficient. We do have the possibility to do real-life trainings. Those are large-scale exercises, but the problem is that this means a lot of financial, personal, and organizational resources. Furthermore, even with a large exercise, we are only able to train a handful of paramedics. MCIs in real life mean a lot of stress for paramedics. They need not only to treat the patients, but also to organize and coordinate the chaotic scene. They need to cooperate with other first responder organizations such as police or fire brigade, and there are higher risks regarding dangers for the paramedics themselves on scene. This is a lot different than our day-to-day business, where a team of paramedics is confronted with one patient in a usually very safe environment. The pictures you see here have been taken a month ago in a large-scale exercise. This was a tunnel accident, a bus accident in a tunnel. We needed more than 150 persons to make this exercise happen. We had 20 casualties. It took place in Centrum am Berg in Styria, which is a great location. They have a tunnel there. It's not that easy to find a tunnel to train there. And we had several months of planning and the help of a huge number of volunteers to make this happen. So the cost drivers of current MCI trainings are mainly finding and preparing the right location, the human resources you need for organizing, for planning, the role players, makeup artists, and so on, the case preparation, the scenario preparation, and the role player briefing, the makeup, and so on. So this is why we as medical first responders are not able to train in under those circumstances very often. What do end users want from a system or from another training approach? We want to be better prepared for stressful and complex situations. We want to support our medical first responders' resilience. We need more realistic trainings with a higher degree of immersion and a higher degree of realism, that we can train more often. We need different training approaches. Mixed reality can be seen as a very fruitful addition to our usual training approaches. And we need, of course, the possibility of repetition, which means making mistakes in a safe environment, to replay them, to talk about them, to do a proper debriefing. The outcome from collecting the needs of medical first responders in Europe were that evidence shows that virtual reality is of course useful for complex trainings, but it misses the haptic component, which is very important for us. We need many solutions that are on the market are not adapted to the needs of medical first responders or to train large MCIs. There's a need of more realism. Stress should be considered, and we urgently need improved training outcomes in terms of the number of participants, repetition, and higher quality debriefings. During the project, 6 field trials were planned. 3 have already been accomplished. The duration of one field trial is 1 week, where trainers and trainees from the end-user organizations can experience the MED1st solution and give their feedback for the further development of the solution. Here are some training parameters. The pictures you see has been taken on the field trial in Vienna that took place in July this year. We had 2 high-end mannequins, as you can see on the picture in the middle, that were overlaid with injuries from a bus crash. 4 paramedics trained triage in the given scenario. The haptic component was very important because they could not only see through the headset a severely injured person that was bleeding, but they were also able to touch the patient, to secure the airway, to stop the critical bleeding, and that was a totally new experience for our paramedics. Over the course of 5 days, we could test the system on approximately 50 trainees and several trainers how to operate and use the system. On the left side, you see 2 trainers from Johanniter operating the trainer dashboard. On the right side, you see our trainees that are doing the scenario. What we can say is paramedics were highly interested in the solution, in the mixed reality system. We could not only welcome trainees from Johanniter, but from all 4 major medical first responder organizations in Vienna. Also, the interest from the media was very high. So what were the key findings? As you can see here, the top 10 advantages that end users ranked are shown here. A lot of them directly meet the needs and shortcomings of today's training opportunities. I'd like to highlight the possibility to induce stress in the training and the flexibility and adaptation possibilities the system provides. Why is end-user involvement important? Not only for the end users, but also from a whole project point of view. We bring in our unique experience and knowledge into the technology development. This improves the usability and simplifies adoption later on. Our involvement helps to identify potential issues at an early stage. And when end users feel heard and that their needs are taken into account, they are more likely to be satisfied with the final product, which of course brings a competitive advantage. I'd like to finish with an outlook on future applications and the so-called green mannequin. As mentioned before, the field trials are still running, and 3 more are left to gain further insight into the feasibility of the system and to collect opinions for future development. What we could find out so far is that there are some promising future applications for mixed reality in medical first responder trainings. First, there's the training of situational awareness. Our medical first responders, our paramedics, are often confronted with highly dangerous situations, and they need to be aware of that. With the visual and haptic input we can provide by creating a virtual environment for them, we can place dangers intentionally, and we can teach them to be aware of them. And at the same time, this experience is totally safe for the trainees. The second point, and that's a big point, is the communication training with better debriefing options as are provided by the MED1st system, it's possible to analyze the communication process afterwards and to improve communication within the team. And of course, there's the topic of skill training, which is using our own equipment. That's an important future application. As you can see here, this is the so-called green mannequin. It's a prototype developed during the MED1st project. And our trainees, you see a picture of me here ventilating a patient, are able to use their real equipment while treating the virtual patient. On the next picture, you see the view I had on the headset. So you really have the feeling you're ventilating a real patient by using a mannequin. This is the green mannequin 2.0. It's a full body tracked mannequin. Chroma keying is used to put the mannequin into a virtual environment, as you can see on the pictures. The patient is haptic. It can be overlaid with different injuries and animations. And furthermore, and this is really fascinating for me, it's already possible to communicate with the mannequin or the patient via speech recognition and LLM. This is a promising prototype that can totally change the way we are training our paramedics today. I'm happy that the green mannequin joined Markus and me today here, so if you want to try it out and get the experience yourself, at the playground experience you can try it out and see what it looks like. So, if you want to stay in touch with us and learn more about the project, here are some possibilities to stay in contact with us. So far, thank you for your attention, and please feel free to ask any questions about MED1stMR project that you might have.
Yeah, so thank you both for very interesting insights into a running project, which I think is really innovative. So are there any questions?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. So you said that you are measuring and visualizing the biosignals as well, which is seldom done in VR and HR applications, so it's a cool approach. I'm just wondering what are you doing then with the data? So is it just for telling people you have been very nervous, or what kind of benefits can you get out of this?
This is part of the research project. University of Heidelberg is doing some stress testing during the exercises to see the stress levels of the participants during the exercise. The goal is to induce less or more stress to heighten the resilience of our paramedics. So if the trainer sees that some paramedics are not stressed enough, they can heighten up the stress level for them by putting in other injuries or more severe injuries. And this data is collected and then used in over 15 studies that are incorporated into the project.
Maybe just one sentence to add, because it's a really quite interesting topic. We know this from further projects, but our goal is always to get in a curve of not overstress, but it should not be boring. Because if it's too boring, if you have really someone like you who has 20 years of experience, then you need more things to do, that you get more in the stress situation. And that's the reason why we measure, because we see how stressed you are, can introduce and always change. And the other way is, if you are overstressed, then you also learn nothing, because then you're just sitting there and having too much cognitive load. And that's the reason why we measure it, because there we have the own algorithm that we say, be in this space of not over and not under stressed, and always learn in this area, because there's the best immersive learning, or also normal learning, because then you really notice things, and then you really have your muscle memories and your cognitive approach in the best way.
One more question here.
Sorry, don't you think that it's still more too complex to use it, you know, countrywide, and a lot of HTC Vives, and I don't know, it's a very big setup. So isn't it still too complex? And one more thing, can you put back slide 24?
Slide 24.
We're just jumping back to slide 24.
Which one is 24?
27. If I understand it correct, the question was if it's still too complex, or is it too complex for you from the setup?
The system.
The system, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically a little problem we still have, because we need a 8 by 11 meters playground. We need for all the tracking sensors and so on. So it's not complicated doing the scenarios, but the setup is a little bit complicated still. But I'm very positive that it will change in future.
So that's the last question. Well, then we take the questions afterwards for the speakers, please.
Hello. Have you been considering the sense? I mean, yes. Tell me why you didn't use it, or there is a special device that you connect with the VR headset that produces the different smells, and it helps to more, get deeper into the situation. What do you think?
Also, not an easy answer, but I try to be very fast. We didn't have the absolute focus on multi-senses in this project because we focused on some other things. But we have from a previous project, which was similar but in the police context, there we have the topic of multi-sensory. And yes, the goal is to feel both together. Also especially, for example, the smell thing, because smell is completely changing things. Also if you smell blood, if you, I had in the police project, for example, to smell gasoline, completely change your danger. Also you can see the fire, but we talked today, for example, in the police project, we also had an Schmerzbelt, an pain belt. And it was interesting because the police officers tried with the hands in the fire and they learned it hurt. And then it was a complete different behavior. And yes, at the end, we will combine the systems. Because I think you need all the multi-sensors to really have the much more immersion. And yes, so we have normally wind, heat, smell, and maybe pain, maybe not here, but for a complete immersion, it could be interesting.
Well, thanks to speakers once again for their great talk and the questions.
Thank you so much.